Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ana Zazugalan and I'm a member of the BuildUp editorial team.
Welcome to BuildUp, the European Commission's portal for energy efficiency and renewable energy in buildings. Directly stemming from the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, BuildUp is the meeting place for everyone involved in making the European building and construction sector more energy efficient. Every month we focus on a topic that is key to making Europe's buildings as energy efficient as possible. Exploring that, you can find the latest content such as expert talks, webinars, case studies and more. From architects and engineers to academics and policy makers, we've got you covered. BuildUp brings together thousands of registered members to reap the benefit of Europe's collective intelligence on all aspects of energy efficiency and renewable energy in buildings. The BuildUp portal benefits from the expertise of our ambassadors. Drawn from industry and academia, the ambassadors bridge the gap between EU and national level and help shape our editorial content. Want to promote your work? BuildUp disseminates your research, projects and events through a variety of channels. Become a member to exchange knowledge with your peers. You can disseminate tools and resources, share good practices, and consult open source publications. Join the discussion on social media and become part of the BuildUp community, or subscribe to our newsletter to receive the latest news. However you participate, the BuildUp portal is here to inspire, inform and connect. BuildUp, the European portal for energy efficiency and renewable energy in buildings. Join the community for opportunities and updates.
It is a pleasure for BuildUp to host today's webinar and workshop event entitled Understanding Skills for a Sustainable Future Skills Mapping, brought to you by ISSO and BuildUp. This online workshop is split into four main parts, during which sustainability experts and key stakeholders will delve into the role of skills mapping in the decarbonization of buildings. Before we begin, we invite and encourage the audience to send us their questions or comments to the speakers throughout the sessions. To do so, please use the GoToWebinar question function. These questions or comments will be addressed after the two panel discussions of the webinar. Finally, we would like to inform you that we will be able to find the recording of the workshop in the BuildUp portal and our YouTube channel in the coming days, together with the presentation slides. The agenda for today's webinar will start with introduction to BuildUpSkills by Amandine de Coster-Lacour, project advisor from CINEA. This will be followed by an introduction to the webinar given by Jan Kronweg, a project coordinator from ISSO. The webinar will be composed of 4 sessions. The application and further development in a Horizon 2020 project Bus Go Circular by Martin Breen, researcher at Limerick Institute of Technology. Second, application in Train for Sustain CN workshop agreement by Peter Goidis, project manager at the Leonardo, and Andrea Moro, president as ESB Italia, that will be presented by Andrea. And the application in Horizon 2020 project Arise by Jan Kronweg, that is the project coordinator from ISSO. Finally, we will have the application and further development of live project Bus NL by Jan Kronweg also, and coordinator at ISSO. At the end, we will have some time for Q&A moderated by Jan. And now, without further hesitation, we will move directly to the welcome and introduction by Amandine de Coster-Lacour, project advisor from CINEA. Amandine, the floor is yours.
Thank you and good morning. It's my pleasure to be opening this webinar. I will start by giving a brief overview about the BuildUpSkills initiative, because it's the home of the projects that are going to be presented later today. First of all, a few words about our agency, CINEA. We are a Brussels-based executive agency. We are supporting the European Commission in the implementation of the European Green Deal. As such, we are managing 7 funding programs that you can see listed on this slide, and notably the LIFE program, which is providing support for the upskilling in the green transition. LIFE has 4 sub-programs that you can see listed here, and notably a pillar on the clean energy transition. And this is actually where we are now channeling the funding and the support for upskilling in the building value chain. So BuildUpSkills started as a joint initiative of the Commission and CINEA back in 2011. It's been funded through open calls for proposals and currently on the Live CET program that I just mentioned. The main objective is to address all the professionals in the building value chain and the companies employing them, but also the public authorities and building owners and tenants. There are 3 main focus areas, as you can see here. First of all, we work on skills intelligence, and that's about mapping the skills gaps and formulating measures to address them. We also support projects working on skills development, and that's really about developing new or upgrading existing training and qualification schemes to address emerging skills. And lastly, we work on skills uptake, and by that we mean really all the measures that support the demand for skills and for skilled professionals, and also the recognition of acquired competencies. What is important to say is that BuildUpSkills is a sectoral initiative and it fits within a wider framework, namely the European Skills Agenda, but also the Pact for Skills. And we also support projects, for example, in the Erasmus Plus community, such as the Construction Blueprint. Very briefly, an overview of the tools that were developed and supported so far. For example, national skills strategies to develop an analysis of the skills gaps and to develop national roadmaps of measures to address those gaps. Of course, training and qualification schemes. We are going to hear now more about the way skills can be mapped out within those schemes. Innovative training approaches, of course, we know this is essential. For example, how to develop on-site training approaches. And last but not least, boosting recognition and demand for skills, which can be through awareness campaigns or through skills passports or registries, or as well introducing specific clauses in public procurement. So this is a bit an overview of what our projects have been developed. You can find more in this publication. And I would also want to mention that at the moment we have 15 projects running, national projects, and they're working hard on developing national roadmaps towards 2030. So if you click on the links provided on this slide, you will find out more about their results. I will close by mentioning our clean energy newsletters. You can subscribe to stay informed about our projects and also funding opportunities. And of course, you're welcome to follow us on social media through the various channels mentioned here. I will stop here. I wish you a very interesting webinar. And I now pass the floor to Jan Kromwijk, who will present the work done within the ProfTrack project. Thank you.
Thanks, Amandine, for handing over to me and introducing me, and thanks for the warm welcome. I also would like to welcome you, and I will start with doing an introduction of this webinar with the start. In this webinar, we will tell you the story about how skills mapping has been evolved from starting the first application in the ProfTrack project towards most recent applications in BuildUpSkills, Train for Sustain, BuzzGo Circular, and the Arise project. In this first part of the webinar, I will just start from ProfTrack, an Horizon 2020 project. And what we did within ProfTrack, we searched for a method to make a skills mapping for professionals active in the construction value chain in order to further develop their NZEB skill set. And what we achieved was realizing a methodology where we started with creating an inventory of the involved professions, the number of professionals and their education levels. Then we mapped their existing qualifications. We created an inventory of available education programs, post-initial education. What were the accreditation and certification structures? What are the applied building and installation technologies? What are the interdisciplinary or cross-craft skills? And how are they mapped with the EQF levels that are used in Europe to define what level the education is on? And EQF stands for the European Qualification Framework. And then we mapped, as a last part, the interdisciplinary skills together with the involved professions. And we did that at the national levels and collaborated everything into one overview at the European level. And what is very important when you are talking about transition, there is always a small group that is already living the transition. They are bringing the transition into practice. So what we decided to do is to ask for expert opinions of people that have proven experience in the roles of the architect, engineer, project manager, teacher, training, building manager, etc., to make sure that we can unlock the latest state of play and make that visible in the desired skill levels. And in order to acquire the right experts, this were the criteria used. And this is the most relevant part to do a successful skills mapping: work with the front runners. Another important part is how to make sure that every expert knows what are the proper skill levels. So we created an overview of skill levels from 0 to 5, where we have described the desired skill level, for example, for 1, and we gave some examples about how it would look in practice. And these are the latest parts, so that in every country the same level definitions have been used. This results in an overview of professional groups where we gather them together in a work field, for example, the architect, civil engineers with several profession names, electrical engineers with several professional names. And in this way, you got several groups with a targeted skill level mapping, where we created an overview of the specialisms, for example, on smart grids, domotic systems, or on energy production. And the list is a bit longer, with roughly 60 specialisms, and what is the desired skill level for a certain group of professionals. And in order to make it fully useful and usable, we created an overview flyer with the groups, what are the desired mappings, and here the legenda, where you can refer the codes to the skill levels to find out what is needed. Now I'm finalizing this first introductory part on how the project was originating, and I'm handing over to Martin Breen, because Martin has used the methodology in the BuildUpSkills Circular project to apply it on the circularity topic, and he will share his adventures with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. So hello, I am Martin Breen from the Technological University of the Shannon. I think there was a mistake in the introduction to us there. So we used to be a Limerick Institute of Technology, but we are now the Technological University of the Shannon. I will be talking about the application and further development in the Horizon 2020 project BuildUpSkills Circular. So firstly, just a quick overview of what BuildUpSkills Circular is. So BuildUpSkills Circular understands the importance of a green energy workforce within the construction sector So it was a 30-month-long project and was funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme, and it started in September of 2021. So we are now just completing this project. So the overall aim of the BuildUpSkills Circular project was to address and overcome the challenges of the stimulation of a demand for green energy skilled workforce, along with hands-on capacity building or train the trainer to increase the number of skilled workers across the value chain. So BuildUpSkills Circular achieved this objective by developing and implementing a circular construction skills qualification framework with a focus on multifunctional green roofs, facades, and interior elements. So the skills qualification framework there was based on the skills mapping, which was carried out across Europe using the ProfTrack framework. And this was focused on circular economy and the multifunctional green roofs, facades, and interior elements of buildings. There was 5 key specific qualitative objectives identified. The first of these was developing a circular qualification skills framework. Again, that was based on the skills mapping, which was carried out based on the ProfTrack system framework. Second was stimulating market demand for circular skills. The third was developing recognition schemes and conducting pilot courses. The fourth was improving the reputation of the construction sector and attracting women and youth to circular skills qualifications. And finally, expanding BuildUpSkills Circular at national and EU level by developing and implementing a communication and replication strategy. So to talk then about how we carried out this skills mapping. So based on the key elements shown here, and I will go through those in just a second, and using the ProfTrack framework, which Jan has spoken about, we mapped out 58 skills and 38 professions relating to circular economy and multifunctional green roofs, facades, and interior elements, which we then went on to map in order to discover the skills gaps existing within Europe. So the way this worked is we mapped relating to multifunctional green roofs, facades, and interior elements and circular economy, but this could be repeated for any element of the construction sector, construction process, or a construction project. So talking about then the key elements, which you can see here, the 3 lighter blue elements, I apologize, are use waste as a resource, stretch the lifetime, and prioritize regenerative resources. So these core elements need to be involved to implement circular economy successfully with any construction project. Then on the outer ring, you have the 5 enabling elements. These are design for the future, rethink the business model, incorporate digital technology, team up to create joint value, and strengthen and advance knowledge. And these support the implementation of circular economy within any construction project. So these enable the core elements to be utilized successfully. So I said we mapped 38 professions. These professions range from existing professions such as the architect and carpenter, which you can see here and here. We also had professions like engineers, block layers, building owner and operator, and project lead, those kind of things. We also identified some new and emerging professions, which were a little harder to map, but were quite interesting for the purpose of this research. So we identified demolition and deconstruction auditor, green public procurer, and green roofer, along with several others. So along with that, we created a list of skills, which we went on to map then. So there are 3 tables of skills. The first is includes all relevant circular skills, either solely related to circular economy or predominantly related to circular economy. So you can see again here that you have your 8 key elements highlighted in a darker color here and bold. Underneath each of these skills, you have sub-skills. So you have things like bio-based and regenerative material application, material innovation, reclaiming energy, applying material passports, design and build for cyclability. So that is the first table which we identified. The second table then relates to skills involved in circular economy, but not necessarily specific to circular economy within the construction industry. So these include skills like grey water collection and use, design for adaptability, modular design, collaboration, drones for use, and BIM and digitalization. Final table of the 58 skills then are skills related to circular economy, specific to multifunctional green roofs, facades, and interior elements. So here you have things like horticulture and establishing the cooling and heating function of green roofs. So using these professions and the skills we identified, we use the skills levels as Jan has already gone through. So you have 0, which is not applicable, 1, which has little knowledge and skills, 2, which has a basic understanding, 3, which has a comprehensive factual and theoretical knowledge, 4, where you have advanced knowledge involving a critical understanding of theories, and then 5, you have specific knowledge and problem-solving skills. So to map these, we worked with professions within each partner country, which allowed us to map the current skills and the future skills levels in each country. So the countries involved in this were the Netherlands, Ireland, Spain, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Croatia, and Bulgaria, sorry, as well. So we mapped these and then validated these with EAB groups, or groups of experts within each country, which allowed us then to create a common level across Europe. So we mapped for each country and then across Europe. So we have quite a lot of data on the skills gaps across Europe. This allowed us then to identify the skills gaps which exist, and we identify gaps across all sectors and skills within the construction industry relating to multifunctional green roofs, facades and interior elements, and specifically circular economy. So just one of the graphs, so this is an example of one of the 38 graphs we developed for future skills. You can see here on the exterior ring the skills codes, and then radially coming out from the center you have the skills levels ranging from 0 to 5, and where they intersect you can see where the graph is drawn. So finally then, how to use the skills levels. Using the skills table, you would identify your target profession or professions. You'd note the skills level of these professions and then highlight how you would or can upskill in relation to these skills with courses developed within the BuildUpSkills Circular project or provided within this ProfTrack tool. And that is everything from me, so I will pass on to Andrea now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I'm going to illustrate another capitalization of the ProfTrack project. The capitalization took place in another Horizon project named Train for Sustain. In practice, in our project, we have developed probably the first sustainability competence quality standard, including more than 100 different topics. And as an output of the project, we also produce a SAN workshop agreement. So the competence quality standard has been published in the form of a SAN pre-standard. SAN is the European standardization body. What is good is that after 3 years, our CUA has been published in 2022. After 3 years, it's possible to transform this pre-standard in a full EN standard, or it can be confirmed for other 3 years, revised or updated. The CUA has been produced by the partnership, of course, but supported by a wide range of experts that joined the preparation of the CUA. And from the side of SAN, the Italian standardization body acts as secretariat, I'm meaning UNI. The standard has been published by SAN in 2022. The code is 17939, and you can download freely by the SAN website. And we had experts from 11 countries, including Canada and Australia, just to tell that this approach is considered really interesting also from outside the European borders. Basically, the CWA allows to assess, compare, and report the competencies of white collars and blue collars in sustainability through a European skill passport. So the idea is to have the competence quality standard as acting as a common language. You know that on the market there are many different qualifications in sustainability, many provided by certification systems. This is creating also some confusion among the stakeholders, among the clients, etc. So this competence quality standards is a sort of way to harmonize how you express the competencies of professionals. So it's a sort of way to connect to avoid this confusion. And the users of the competence quality standards are professionals, of course, because they can identify gaps, and they can also, let's say, show to clients what are the competencies, but the users are also clients themselves, public or private, that can express their competence needs using a system that allows to verify the real competencies of professionals. And thus, of course, it is usable also by scheme operators or training agencies, because they can map their courses showing which kind of competencies they can deliver through their offers. We have like 112 areas of expertise included in the system. It is a sustainability system, so we are addressing all the dimensions of sustainability. So we have competencies dealing with environment, society, economy, and we also added a fourth module concerning process. Each module is organized in a hierarchic structure. So each dimension contains thematic fields, macro areas of expertise. Inside you have the areas of expertise, and each area of expertise is described in terms of knowledge, skills, and learning outcomes. So this is the first level of hierarchy levels inside the module. So for instance, here you see that, for instance, the module society is articulated in comfort, safety, accessibility, mobility, etc. Each thematic field is articulated in macro areas of expertise. For instance, comfort and well-being contains indoor air quality, thermal comfort, visual comfort, etc. And each macro area of expertise is formed by the single areas of expertise. We have more than 112. Then each area of expertise is described in terms of knowledge, skills, and learning outcomes. Basically, each area of expertise provides the description of the knowledge and skills that are necessary to reach a certain level of competence. In this scale, we already heard from 1 to 5. 1 is the minimum level of competence, 5 is the level of competence of an expert. We use the language of the European EQF, so we split knowledge and skills that are the two elements forming the competence. So we were paying attention to the knowledge in terms of theories, but also to skills, so the ability to apply the knowledge. They are considered separately in the competence quality standard. So for instance, this is a simplified table concerning one area of expertise, thermal insulation, for instance, where you can see in the left column the knowledge corresponding to the different levels of competence, and you also have the description of skills in the second column, and then you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of competence. The scoring scale, you already know it, is the same one used in Prof Track, so we adopt this approach. knowledge and skills, they provide information on different kind of topics. So each competence is described in terms of knowledge and skills, and this knowledge and skill concern metrics, solutions, standards, installation, construction, methodologies, calculation, simulation, measurement, operation, also in maintenance. Each skill and knowledge, so competence, is also referred to project stages, so that it's possible to see what are the competencies needed in the concept design, the type design, construction, and build, and in use phases. So that in the table of each area of expertise, it's also expressed which is the project stage in which those knowledge and skills are applied. Of course, because we are talking about raising the competencies, knowledge and skills are also linked to learning outcomes. So basically, we are, through the learning outcomes, we are connecting the knowledge and skills to a learning process. In this way, it's also possible to design training courses for providing the knowledge and skills necessary to reach a certain level of competence. So this is the full table you find in the SEN workshop agreement for the 112 areas of expertise. So you have the different learning outcomes and the knowledge and skills, the competence level, the project stage, and each single learning outcome are more than 1,000 is coded, so it's possible to track it through the system. We also use the same, almost the same work fields addressed in Prof Track. And so also in Train for Sustain, we have identified minimum recommended levels of competence for each work field. The same we did for the blue collars. We have identified different categories of them organized by construction works. And also for blue collars, we have identified what are the minimum recommended levels of competence. And of course, this is a system that is usable by professionals, blue or white collars, to verify their actual level of competence in the applicable areas of expertise, depending on their professions. In this way, they can, of course, identify the gaps and also identify the most suitable training courses to fill the gaps. And they also have the possibility to communicate their level of competencies through this European Skill Passport, that is the output of the assessment process. So this COA is built on Prof Track. We adopt the same methodological approach. We use the same definitions of skills levels, and we also articulated the skill levels per work field. What is new? We expanded Prof Track because Prof Track was designed for NZAP, but here we designed the competence quality standard for sustainability. So the number of areas of expertise was raised from 30 in Prof Track up to more than 100. We also updated part of the areas of expertise because over time new standards, new technologies emerge, and we separated knowledge and skills in the areas of expertise. So this is just a very short story to illustrate how it works. We have, for instance, an engineer that has a qualification, a master qualification, and the system identify which are, depending on this work field, her work field, which are the applicable areas of expertise. Then she can check what are the knowledge and skill that she already owns using the different tables, and on the base of this check, it's possible to receive a score from the 1 to 5 scale that is also specifying her level of competence. In this case, it is 4 because she does not have all the competencies necessary to reach level 5. So she has to find a training course providing the missing learning outcome for 110. In this case, we are talking about thermal insulation. At the end of the process, the professional receives a skill passport. The skill passport is the common language. So it's possible to compare across Europe the competencies of professionals using this common document. So you can have different qualifications. You can have been qualified by LEED, DGMB, BREEAM, or national systems. You can have taken courses in your region or your country, but everything is transformed in a common skill passport that is let's say the tool for communicating your level of competence. It's also possible to receive a skill passport at level of organization. And we had a nice test in Train for Sustain concerning a public tender, so that the client, it was a public organization, of course, they were expressing using Train for Sustain the competencies request for designing and constructing the building. So in this case, participants in the tender, they had to provide the overall competence level using the skill passport. We also have foreseen the possibility to certify the passports. So not just to have professionals self-assessing the competencies, but the possibility to receive a certified skill passport that can be also strengthen, of course, the communication of your competence level. The system is usable not only by professionals, as I said at the beginning, but you can map qualification schemes. You can, for instance, maybe we are talking about the qualification scheme of a sustainability rating system like DGMB in Germany or whatever. It's possible to use the system to map what are the competencies necessary to reach the qualification, so that the professional can also see what are the missing competencies to reach that qualification. So we are also trying to connect the different qualification schemes using the same language. And also it is possible to map the training courses. Chamber of Architects, Chamber of Engineers, different professional schools are offering courses. Is it the right course for you? You can match your actual passport, your actual level of competence with the map of the training course, and you can identify how many learning outcomes the course can provide you. For instance, this is a map course on alternative energy system. This is a passport of a professional. In green, you have the learning outcomes provided by the training course that you already have in your passport, and the red ones are the new competencies that you will acquire through the participation in this course. Of course, the system is very articulated, 112 areas of expertise, more than 1,000 learning outcomes. So a professional that is interested to create his profile to receive the passport can use the digital version of the Seaway. We have a skill registry. This is an online website that is free. You can connect to it. You can log in, and in this tool you can check your competencies. You can receive the skill passport, but also you can matchmake. It's possible to do a matchmaking, sorry, with qualification courses, schemes, with training courses, but also, for instance, with clients that are looking for specific professionals with specific competence. So this is for profiling your competence, but also for matchmaking, finding the right courses for you, finding the right projects or the right qualifications. Last slide. This way is already used, in particular in Italy. It has been connected to the National Public Sustainability Certification System named Protocolo Itaca. We have already more than 1,000 professionals in the platform, and actually the Ministry of Environment is interested to use this system in the National Green Public Procurement regulation, because this is a system that is neutral, is not supporting any particular, let's say, certification. It's like an an APD for materials where you declare and you are not fixing a threshold. This is a system for declaring competencies. So this is very, very well accepted by also the chambers that see in this approach the possibility for their members to valorize their competencies. And the system is also actually capitalized in another European project named UB Super App. It will be a module of a platform for raising the competence of stakeholders involved in the next generation energy certification. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. And I assume you're handing over to me, Andrea. And it's wonderful to see how the storyline is unrolling from a trial with a methodology to further application to also creating a workshop agreement as a part to start creating a standard. And in the next two presentations, I will guide you through the process of further application in two other projects. And then I will try to conclude with a reflection on where we are today, because the story is still unfolding and there are several pathways to the future. And I would like to express my thoughts on that, and also maybe via the chat and the Q&A exchange a bit around it. First, I will present the application within the Horizon 2020 project ARISE. That's a project focused on digitalization and the use of BIM for energy efficiency. And my colleague Jaap Kolk has prepared this presentation because he was leading the work in ARISE on this topic. Although unfortunately, I heard yesterday that he was not able to join, so I am filling in the gap, so to say. What we did is that we started a kind of a similar approach by defining the main specialisms. And with regards to digitalization and the use of BIM, Jaap has distinguished, together with the ARISE consortium, three zones of expertise: BIM application, BIM utilization, so the use of BIM, and BIM support, what is needed to support BIM, etc. And this means that we are differentiating between the making of the building information model and the using of the BIM model to make sure that it delivers a certain value, for example, for sustaining energy. Within the work fields or the groups, we have defined specialisms, and as you can see, there is a difference between ARISE and Train for Sustain with regards to the level of depth. The beauty of Train for Sustain is that it gives you a very good general overview of skills needed. When you want to start to use BIM, then you need far more in-depth skills to deliver value. And within the ARISE framework, we are in fact adding an additional layer of details to the skills mapping and to the qualifications in play. So for BIM application, you have several things that needs to be done: BIM management, BIM project management, coordination, modeling, engineering, programming. And those are often reflecting the BIM roles active in the field. Then when you utilize BIM, so you use BIM, then you can use it to capture and represent data. You can use it for planning and conceptualizing, for simulating and quantifying, for construction and fabricating, for operating and maintaining, monitoring and controlling, and also controlling and extending, in the sense extending digital models. And in order to make sure it works properly, there is data management needed and good system administration. In order to make sure that the experts we are talking with in the field have the same definition of the specialism, we also worked out the specialisms in a definition. So BIM management, strategic levels, one sentence to describe it in short, and several labels that are often used in the scheme when talking about BIM management. So in that sense, we are creating a kind of a common playing field where experts can share their knowledge and expertise. Then in steps 2 and 3, we defined the irrelevant profession groups, and within ARISE, we focused on 4 different target groups: the designers, the contractors, the clients, and the public administrators. And based on those groups, we created the mapping for the current situation. So what if you ask 100 architects in a country, what is the current state of play with regards to a skill level? And if you ask several front runners, architects, what is their expectation of the desired skills, of the skills needed as they have experienced within their front running expertise? And to do so, we created an Excel to gather the data in a concise way where you can find the categories, the specialisms, the different groups, and the current skill level and the future skill level. And this also leads to a skills gap, for example, here of 2, from 0 to 2, from 2 to 4, from 1 to 3. And based on that, education providers can create that training supply, filling in the gaps that have been found. And what is very nice is, just as Train for Sustain did, we followed their lead to define unit of learning outcomes existing of competences, skills, and knowledge elements, so that training providers can properly assess what are the unit of learning outcomes they want to address within their training. And what's very nice, in the Dutch ecosystem, we are currently implementing the results in the so-called DigiCampus for infrastructure, and we are implementing it in a project DigiVaardig that's financed by the Dutch government to stimulate digital skills at company level. So this was the example of how it was applied in the ARISE project. Now I will continue the presentation with examples how we applied it, but also further developed it in the live project BuildUpSkills, the Netherlands. We applied the ProfTrack skill gap analysis in combination with the outputs of the Train for Sustain workshop agreement to make sure that they really are really in sync with each other. The goals of the BuildUpSkills skills mapping were to address the skills needed on several topics: energy, materials, climate adaptation, and digitalization, with a focus on the entire building value chain, all professions involved. Also include skills mapping results from other projects. So we used, for example, Busco Circular, ARISE, Train for Sustain, and ProfTrack as a baseline, and we further elaborated on that. And with a focus on technical cross-trade, but also an extension to social-technical skills. For example, how do you collaborate with neighborhoods in transition? How do you collaborate with one-stop shops, etc.? We also have further developed the spider graphs, and we highlight the to-be expected skill gaps. And to be clear on that the skill gaps are expected skill gaps. They are not black and white in the empirical sense. It are just indications of the trends and what we can expect as a skill gap. The elements, we define the skill levels linked to EQF 1 to 8, European qualification framework. We have an inventory of all the professions, specialisms, and also the skill levels. And what do we need to start with? So we need a list of professions, specialisms, decide which language, and if we want to have ambition levels. And on ambition levels, I will come on later, because I think that's an important ingredient to nudge the upskilling. But when we started filling the skills mapping, and you can see a fairly complex Excel because we have a lot of professions, we have an awful lot of specialisms, more than the 132. I think we have roughly 200 in the BuzzNL skills mapping. So how can you map more than 100 professions and 200 specialisms? That means that you have 20,000 Excel to fill in, and that's far too much. So what we did is we decided to group specialisms and to group professions, and this was done by optimizing the Excel where you can make proper selections. So we reduced the number of fields by creating groups, and we created a selector filter. So for example, you can select the airtight builder and then see all the specialisms relevant for the airtight builder, and then you can do the skills mapping in order to make it fast and concise. There was also some improvement needed with regards to the skill level definitions, because we are linking with the EQF levels, although in ProfTrack, the core of the professions were highly skilled professionals from EQF 5 to 8, the white collars. And that means that when we are mapping blue collar skills mappings, it becomes far more difficult to have the right dialogue with the experts. So first in Dutch, and I'm showing you the Dutch working example, we extended the skills level definitions by a type, how to say, a well-known verb for a skill level. For example, on level 1, you have to be able to understand and to know by head. On level 2, you have to do easy application. On level 3, it's more analyzing. On level 4, evaluating. And on level 5, you are able to create new solutions for upcoming problems. And we have further elaborated what are the characteristics of a task. So on level 1, it's simple. On level 2, it's routine. On level 3, it's less routine. You need experience. On level 4, it's complex, not standard. You need also skills to balance between different opinions, and so further on. And then we created 2 columns, one for the higher level professionals, 5 to 8, that are involved, for example, in design. And then we created also an example on the performance on site, especially linked to the blue collar occupations. And for the final deliverable, we made a far more smaller table on the levels where we summarized everything. So level 1, typical verbs, task characteristics, and we also added a column with characteristics of the involved person, so that you know a bit as an expert what kind of person is linked to the skill level in order to make the mappings far more detailed. And that realized in a setup for the skills mapping. And here you can see that we used the train for sustain codes for the specialisms, and we also extended the code system with new specialisms that were not yet within the train for sustain workshop agreement. And here you see that we link it in the same way And here you see that we also link it to the named specialisms within Train for Sustain and the IDs, so that all of our results can be used in the future update of the Train for Sustain SEN workshop agreement to make it more actual and usable for other not yet addressed topics. And we created nice graphics, although I'm not that happy with the codes. I think we should use words instead of codes because that makes it far more easy. An example for the electrical installer with several specialisms and several higher ranking skills, and one for the specialist on waste and logistics with several skills on a fairly high level and several on a lower level. What's next? What we try to do is create skills mappings in order to stimulate that people start developing themselves. And one way to start developing yourself is, for example, you are on skill level 1 and you have to grow to skill level 4, and you can compare it to a stairway. So what we did is that we added the data from the project to the BuildUpSkills Advisor app, and that's an ongoing process. We've now done it for circularity, and we have done it for digitization skills, where you can do a personal skill gap analysis or a team skill gap analysis, quite comparable to the way Train for Sustain is doing it. And then you get an overview of upskilling recommendations. You can here see the circular skills topic. You are leaded through the relevant specialisms for your occupation. You give a self-estimation of your current skill level based on the skill level definitions shown earlier. And then you get recommendations. Sometimes you are overperforming, so you are far more expertise than needed following the experts. In other cases, you still have to learn a lot, for example, in order to incorporate digital technology while becoming more circular. And we are currently working to link that to an upskilling advice where the found training content is linked to the level you are clicking on the roadmap, so that you get a real-time insight in what is open or commercial upskilling supply relevant for your upskilling. And maybe I should go one step back, because within this skills mapping for yourself as a person, the skills assessment, we are also working with ambition levels. So for example, if a company has the ambition level to score at a level 4, then we have translated that ambition level to a good ambition level definition. For example, on level 4, we want to be very circular in the construction value chain. When you are as a company stating, I want to learn more about circularity and I want to apply it for the first time, you have an ambition level of level 1 or 2. So that based on the ambition an organization has, you can create a growth path toward it. And sometimes companies see that they have far more skills in the team than they have ambition, and then they can change their ambition to make it more ambitious, and also the other way around. So to summarize, before we start the Q&A session, and I've got quite a nice number of questions in the chat already, it's good to summarize. We started in ProfTrack in 2015. Now we are in 2024. So in 9 years, we have made quite some nice developments within the skills mapping arena. And I would be delighted if we can further consolidate the findings to make sure that on the one hand, the SEN workshop agreement is revised properly, absorbing the new skills mappings and qualifications that have been delivered, but also making sure that if there is a skills mapping with a higher level of detail, that it can also be used in the same digital system. For example, if you want to do a green public procurement specifically on circularity in the construction value chain, the BuildUpSkills circular mapping has a lot more details than the current skills mapping in Train for Sustain. So I really would like to make a kind of a handshake where you start at a general level, go deeper on specific topics, and start developing your skills and your skill set. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the digital systems. We are now working, for example, with the European Registry of Train for Sustain. We are working in the RISE with a digital system. We are working in BuildUpSkills with a digital system. I know the See the Skills project also is working with a digital system. And it would be great if in the future we can use the same data set, keep it together up to date, and use it in several tools that are applicable in the European scheme. So for now, I will stop my wishful thinking and future elaboration thoughts, and I will start the Q&A session. And I will start with a question to Andrea on why did we, or why did you separate the knowledge and the skills?
Basically, this is the approach also foreseen in the EQF, European EQF, where there is a separation between the knowledge that has to be intended as the theory and the capacity to apply in practice this knowledge. It is the skill. So, of course, the fact that you have knowledge, it does not mean that you are able to apply it. So to have a more clear vision in this sense, we prefer to make visible the separation between knowledge and skills for each level of competence relating to the different competence levels. So also to have, let's say, a more precise analysis considering the real capacity to act of a professional and identification about what are the gaps. Probably maybe you have a knowledge, but you never apply it. So there is a gap in this sense. And so separating them, it's also possible to more effectively fill the gaps of finding the right training courses or path that allows you to really acquire the real competence that you need.
Thank you, Andrea. And I would like to add to that it is also relevant for CEDEFOP, as the CEDEFOP guidelines for unit of learning outcomes are using the same definitions we have applied, both in BuildUpSkills Circular, Arise, and in Train for Sustain, to make sure that all of our outputs are usable, for example, within the Europass. I have another question for you, Andrea. Is it possible to show already a bit more or to tell a bit more on the matchmaking hub?
Yes, I'm not ready, but let's say that I can describe it it is quite easy. In the moment you are registered in the skill registry platform, you can create your profile and you can conduct your assessment. It's possible to carry out a self-assessment of the competencies, so you will check the skills and knowledge that you have, so that you receive the passport with the scores, the levels in each area of expertise. At this point, it's possible to start the matchmaking. You can match, for instance, training courses. So it's possible, for instance, to identify among the training courses that are in the platform, you can identify the ones that fit your needs. If you need to fill a specific gaps, you can find the right course to fill in your gaps. You can also find the right qualification scheme that maybe allows you to increase your professional competencies, choosing the right qualification scheme, because sometimes professionals also they are confused among the difference between the concerning the difference between the different qualification schemes. And you can also match, for instance, tenders or projects. It's possible to upload projects in the platform by clients, and they can specify for each project which are the competencies needed so that you can apply for a project. Reversing the point of view, of course, scheme operators, they can upload their qualification schemes in the registry, mapping it, of course, so that they can identify what are the skills and knowledge necessary for reaching the qualification. Training agencies, they can map the courses using the platform, so that can in a transparent way also declare what are the knowledge and skills that you will acquire participating in the training course. And clients, they can upload their projects expressing, using the Train for Sustain system, what are the competencies necessary to be hired, maybe by the from the client, or maybe in public tenders. So the matchmaking is between professionals, project professionals, qualification schemes, professional, and training courses. And at the end, basically the system allows you to increase your competencies as professionals, also receiving a document, the skill passport, that can show in an objective way the levels of competence you reached.
And in that sense, you also create a proof that you can use all over Europe, referring to the same baseline.
Yes.
With an underpinning.
Sorry, and also we have foreseen, it is outlined also in the SEN workshop agreement. We have, let's say, foreseen the possibility to set up a certification, a competence certification system based on the ISO 17024, so that you can have self-assessed passport. So these are like declarations provided by professionals, or certified passport. So you have a third-party certification body accredited under the ISO 17024 that will check effectively if you have the competencies you are declaring on the base of not only of your qualifications or training, but also on the base of your professional experience, because the way you are acquiring knowledge and skills is not only through training, but also through your work, participating in projects in your professional life. So this is something already applied in other fields, and it's possible to define a procedure for certifying the competencies of professionals. So establishing, of course, a common language, a common certification that can be spent all around Europe.
Yeah, and that's something on your wish list.
Of course.
I'm stepping over to another question. Have you found during the development of the project a big gap between the skills demanded by the sustainable construction market and those that are provided by the traditional training institutions? Is there a raise of awareness to be done? And to be honest, yes, there is a gap. There is a big gap. And there should be a gap. And I would like to reflect first on that in terms of transition theory. When you have the future on this side and you are currently here, there is a gap between you and the future. So there should be a gap. And the question is, do we see timely when we need to close the gap to make sure that the capacity building can deliver? Because if you are a training institute and you can deliver on the future element already, then it's great, but there is no market because the construction companies are not going to courses that are too far in the future. So you have to be very timely. And in that sense, and that's a nice example from Busco Circular, what we did there is that we trained training institutes in application of the skills mapping to further improve their trainings and to gradually increase the rate of innovations addressed to become a circular, so that instead of introducing a fully circular at the highest level curriculum, we are creating a kind of a stairway so that every year a training institute can look around what are the current market awareness, what are the current market needs, and how can I properly implement more circularity within my trainings, always with the big goal in mind, because we know, for example, in 2027, when the levels framework is implemented, circularity becomes far more important for the construction value chain, and you can prepare for that. And yes, there is a raise of awareness needed, but that's more in the general sense, and it can be summarized in one sentence: no energy transition without circularity. And if you want to add another sentence, no circularity without proper digitization, because if you do not properly digitize in construction, you are not able to deliver fully circular. And in that sense, we are seeing, instead of separate fields, a far more handshake of the different specialisms needed. I will try to find a question that can be answered by Martin. Martin, can you elaborate a bit more on how we created the list of skills for the white collars?
Yeah, so the list of skills for both the white and blue collars were developed based on mapping that was carried out by Building Changes and Circular Economy in the Netherlands. So we created that by working with professions within industry and discussing what skills were most relevant to them. So using experts within each field, or else working with people actually on site or on the design team to discover what skills would be necessary for the multifunctional green roofs, facades and interior elements and circular economy in the Busco Circular project.
Yeah, and that's very interesting to add there. Circle Economy in Amsterdam has a big knowledge base of front runner and top of the bill projects with regards to circularity. And what they did, they studied and analyzed their knowledge base. What were the professions involved in order to deliver that quality? And based on that, we got the list of not only the professions involved, but also the skills that have been applied. Are there conversations with universities or vocational schools to change or add these skills in the curricula? Maybe Martin, you can also address that, how you are doing that in Ireland. Yeah,
so for us, obviously we are a university, so we've been working with there are very few courses in Ireland existing right now. There aren't a huge amount of courses across Europe existing around circular economy, specifically in the construction industry at the moment. So obviously we've worked on our own within the Technological University of the Shannon. We have partnered with ATU, so Atlantic Technological University, on the DASB project, where we've carried out, where we've integrated the Busco Circular Qualification Framework. There's also a coalition group of universities working, going to implement the circular economy qualification frameworks taken from the skills mapping. And then we also were working with LOETB, the LOETB, the Waterford Wexford ETB, Clear Limerick ETB, integrating circular economy into existing courses there. So the main kind of thing we're doing is trying to integrate it into existing courses and support the integration of circular economy rather than developing new courses. While they will come after, it's quite interesting to see what can be done with existing courses and how we can build on knowledge that already exists. So that's kind of the main benefit of the train the trainer that we developed within the Bosco Circular project as well. We had quite a lot of educators involved in that, so they are the ones integrating into the education courses at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. So in fact, we train them to do further implementations based on their needs and also the state of play in the field, in order to make sure that the offer they give is fit for the demand. And there is a nice question that is related to that, and also related to the work of Andrea with regards to job demands. Doesn't job demands would need to be aligned with these qualification schemes? And I think that yeah, Andrea can answer that with a full yes, but maybe you can give a bit more details why and how.
Yes. But, first of all, I would like also to give a very quick feedback about what I just heard. When we talk about gap, probably there is a generational gap. Most of the professionals that are experienced, maybe they are not competent in the field of energy efficiency, circularity, etc. So I'm talking about the generation over 50 and so on. And on the other side, the young professionals, they are more competent in terms of knowledge, because in the university they are very well prepared now. In my view, there are several courses or faculties on sustainable building, etc. But of course, they don't have the experience. So the fact is, we need to address the different generations, providing the right training, providing maybe the knowledge to the most skilled, or providing the skills to the most young. And probably we are also in a moment that is positive, because of the let's say the general legislative framework in the European Union. You know that we have the new EPBD is going to be published. It has been approved by the Parliament on the 12th of March. In the new energy performance directive for buildings, in this directive is strongly highlighted the connection between circularity and energy, and also other issues. We have a very challenging target to reach the decarbonization of the European building stock by 2050. This is the climatic law. We have an intermediate objective by 2030, that is the day after tomorrow. So in 6 years, by the 55%. So this will create really a very strong need for professionals that are competent in decarbonization, circularity, energy efficiency, and so. So and the competence field is where the battle will win or lost. Because you really need to improve the competence of professionals. But I would say the whole system, professionals, clients, so white collars, blue collars in general. So we need really to have an increase of awareness, knowledge, skills to reach those very challenging objectives. So I think that work we are doing since several years through the different research projects, the skill mapping, this is something very, very useful to raise the objective, to raise the capacity to act in the way to reach effectively the results that the European Union is posing for 2030, 2050. So there is lots of work to do.
Yeah, that's maybe also why the program is called BuildUpSkills. And building up skills can be improved by digitization and prefabrication and stuff like that. So we can faster build up skills, although if you learn something, you have to bring it several times in practice to become expertized and confident. And what we see is you need to be confident to train others and to deliver good projects. So what we see is that many companies that started 5 years ago in upskilling and heat pumps are now the key players. So it takes an amount of time. So if you want to deliver high quality NZEB in 5 years' time, you have to start tomorrow without waiting. And the nice thing is that by doing the levels, you can do it step by step and bringing the frontier and the moonshot nearby. I have an additional question for Martin, because I think, Martin, you have also seen that the programs are not only for European citizens. Can you give some examples from the BuildUpSkills Circular Train the Trainer?
Yeah, so the BuildUpSkills Circular Train the Trainer has been carried out 3 times so far, once in person in Prague and then 2 online, which meant that it was available to people across not only Europe, but we had some from South America, we had some from the continent of Africa, I believe. And there has been really good feedback from those trainers. They've, yeah, I think the online version has allowed us to reach a much wider audience, and I believe that the further reach of those trainers then has been up in the hundreds. So we have really good feedback from that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's very nice to see how a guy from Africa was very proud, sharing on LinkedIn, being with the minister of his country and stuff like that. So we are definitely making worldwide impact as Europe, yeah. So to say. What I will try to do in the coming 5 minutes is to make sure that I got all the questions that have been shared with us, and thank you for the many questions delivered, but also the high quality of questions. And one of the things is how can we make sure that our results are usable for ESCO and so on. And I think there I can give a very concise answer, as we use the CEDEFOP definitions for unit of learning outcomes. And as we have used the Train for Sustained SEN workshop agreement, ESCO can just read out our data and enrich the ESCO system, because I think we are quite compatible already with ESCO, and it would be a high value activity. And it's very interesting to share that, for example, the ProfTrack outcomes have already been added to ESCO. But later in time, I know that ESCO has now hired a data scientist team. Hopefully, they can connect in the future digitally to the integrated skills registry to make sure that enrichment is not an activity that is static, but that is dynamic and going on time over time. And another interesting questions is traditional education and skills delivery is an industry and one that is slow to change. Yes, it's slow to change when the demand is slow changing. Skills alone will not answer the industry problems. Do the presenters believe that the legislation is the catalyst for change we need? Will legislation lead to more upskilling? And to be honest, yes, legislation always helps, because if nobody is demanding good behavior, not all people are behaving well. And we are living in a time of abundancy with regards to work and shortage of workers. And what we see is that the demand that is popping up at the market level at this time is fairly traditional demand with some innovative aspects, but that is already absorbing all the capacity we have to deliver. And if we really want to speed up, then we should, for example, state that several technologies should be outphased in order to favor new things. And personally, I would recommend there not to focus too much on one or two single technologies, but to focus on principles. For example, make sure that circularity principles are adapted in regulation, because that will make a very big difference. Then I have seen one on emerging occupations, knowledge and competences. How do you envisage to identify these in the near future? That I can answer from the methodology. What we do in the methodology is we look to highly ambitious projects that have delivered, and we go in dialogue with them. What are the changes in skills? And what we then see is, for example, in the field of digital twins and AI, we see that currently the role of data scientists is emerging very, very fast. Instead of being a role, it really becomes a professional group that should be active in the construction sector. And in this way, we are keeping on our glasses and looking to the future, and also the highly ambitious players, to find out what are the new competences. That's one line. The other line is that we study the technical innovation systems, because the built environment is realized with technologies, humans applying technologies to deliver a certain value. And technology is developing fast, faster than we can absorb. And by making an overview of upcoming technologies, we can create a kind of a heat map. This is the trend with regards to digitalization. We expect that these technologies are making a breakthrough, and that gives us a better priority. Maybe it's a good time to close off the session, and I would like to ask all presenters to put the camera on again and do one last round of are there any last words you want to say or to share with our audience? And then I will hand over to BuildUp. Martin, do you have anything to add?
Thank you very much, Jan. Just that this has been a really interesting process of test. The ProfTrack framework has been really interesting for mapping circular skills across Europe. I think it's incredibly useful and adaptable. We are looking, I myself am looking at creating a thesis project based on implementing this for single buildings and developing it for that. So scaling this down rather than up. So I think there's lots that can be done with this tool, and I think it's a fantastic framework to use.
Nice, thank you. Andrea?
Well, as I was saying a few minutes ago, this field concerning the raising the competencies in the building sector, this issue is a very important challenge for succeed in achieving the results we want to reach concerning the decarbonization and efficiency, circularity, and so on. So I think it's really important in the next period to join the forces to capitalize as much as possible jointly the results of the different projects in the way to really have a strong, high impact action and really to raise the capacity to act the whole system in very short time. So thank you very much for giving the possibility to participate in this seminar. They are very important for raising the awareness about the results of our project.
Yeah, and thanks also from my side to both the panelists and the professional guidance of the BuildUp team. Thank you for joining this webinar, and hopefully you are so inspired that you start using our results, not to reinvent the wheel, but to use the wheels we have created to drive faster to the transition of the built environment. And hereby I'm handing over to BuildUp so that they can state the concluding words.
Outstanding quote, Jan. It's difficult to talk over you now. Amandine, Jan, Martin, Andrea, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience too for attending to the webinar. A reminder that you will be able to find the recording of today's session on the BuildUp portal and our YouTube channel in the coming days, together with the presentation slides. BuildUp has several webinar sessions already in the pipeline for the upcoming months of April and May, so keep an eye on the BuildUp calendar of events and our social media for updates on this. Be sure also to register to the BuildUp website to be able to share and disseminate your own content and follow us on social media for these updates. We wish you all a very pleasant end to your week. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.